For Hitler and Germany.
With Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion of Russia's neighboring country, Ukraine, and the tactics he is employing to wage this war, both on the propaganda front and on the battlefield, many parallels are being drawn between this humanitarian crisis and the Second World War.
Poland's 34 million inhabitants, crushed, scattered, and enslaved.
In the early days of the invasion, as gunfire and missiles began exploding over the country, it was already clear to senior U.S. defense officials that the world, and specifically Europe, had not seen a military move of this scope since World War II.
If he were to move in with all those forces, it would be the largest invasion since World War II. It would change the world.
The Ukrainian government's official Twitter account even tweeted a political cartoon of Adolf Hitler proudly caressing the cheek of a small Vladimir Putin, saying that this was now the world's new reality. And now, as Ukraine's war with Russia is about to enter its fourth week, Joe Biden has delivered his most damning condemnation of Putin's actions. On Wednesday, March 16, 2022, the President of the United States called the President of Russia a war criminal.
I think he is a war criminal.
Will you be meeting with us?
This comment would surely not be taken lightly, nor was it meant to be. The Kremlin, essentially Russia's White House, has regarded Biden's statement as unforgivable, saying that the U.S. has no moral standing to make such a claim due to our use of nuclear weapons at the end of World War II.
First atomic bomb hit an enemy target.
It should be noted, by the way, that Putin has himself threatened the use of nuclear weapons during this conflict with Ukraine, a move globally condemned.
You realize this is not a good thing. Putin is going nuclear and there's no one there to stop him?
Trevor Noah of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah even hit back at the Kremlin's counter-argument, saying, "Seriously, Russia? You're going to bring up something America did in the 40s? And while Mr. Noah has a point that the Kremlin's comparison is an entirely baseless one, his reference to the events of the 1940s as something seemingly insignificant or as having nothing to do with today is simply inaccurate.
Some smokestacks survived. They offered comparatively little resistance to the blast.
I would even argue that regarding the nuclear annihilation of 2 Japanese cities carried out by the US as just something America did a long time ago is actually a little insensitive, both to Japan and the United States. No nation has ever known pain as that which was inflicted on Japan, and that very pain was in retaliation of an act of war against the US. And furthermore, let's not forget those incidents were direct results of the genocide of over 11 million people. So yeah, Trevor, not only should we all talk about it now, we've all been talking about it since it happened. A society's culture is representative of its mind, of its psychology. For decades, not only has World War II been studied and deliberated over and over in academia, but also in pop culture.
Was ist das? Wo?
World War II, Nazis, and even Hitler specifically have all found their way into books, cartoons, movies, television shows, fictional and non-fictional.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Hello.
I'm home.
And even video games. Now, the question is why? Why are we, and should we be, hung up on a global catastrophe that occurred over 75 years ago? Countless veterans, survivors, and monuments have all told us to never forget. But is our inclusion of the events and the people of World War II into our fantasies, our fiction, our entertainment, almost some kind of perverse fetishization of mankind at our most horrific and grotesque?
No. You wouldn't hear click, it was the angle of it, the pin.
Maybe it's the pin. Maybe the pin shaft is greasy.
Rather, I would argue that these reflections are actually therapeutic for our culture, and much like trauma therapy itself, necessary to truly move on in a productive manner, and to ensure that this kind of devastation never happens again. One of the most well-known examples of Nazis, World War II, and even Hitler himself making it into the zeitgeist, German for culture of a specific time, is the critically acclaimed 2009 Tarantino film Inglourious Basterds.
We're going to be doing one thing, and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
This film, starring Christoph Waltz, Brad Pitt, Melanie Laurent, and Eli Roth, depicted a group of Jewish soldiers committing acts of retributive violence against the Nazis in 1944. The writer-director, Quentin Tarantino, a father of cinema, known for his stylized profanity and excessive violence.
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Why the f*** did you do that?
I didn't mean to do it, it was an accident.
Chose to position the Nazi Party as the central target of his animosity because they are real-life villains. Having taken heavy criticism over the years for his depictions of women and ethnic minorities in his gritty films, Tarantino opted to focus on a historically antagonizing group of people, arguably the worst. How could people take issue with his characters bashing in the brains of Nazis, branding their faces with ironic swastikas, and generally just blowing them all to hell?
Scalp Herman.
Are you mad?
Furthermore, the film also follows assassination attempts against Adolf Hitler, and in an act of defiant catharsis against what actually happened, Tarantino wrote Hitler's successful assassination into the movie, effectively murdering one of the most vile figures in all of global history, in narrative terms, of course. Killing Hitler is one of those timeless moral quandaries. I remember being asked by my schoolmates as a child whether or not I would be able to kill baby Hitler if given the chance. It's a question of whether or not it's right to take a life, even if that life will go on to cause so much death and destruction.
I killed Hitler. I killed Hitler. I think that entitles me to free drinks for the rest of my life. I'm gonna get t-shirts made.
And while the fact that our children are asking each other this grotesque question on their playgrounds is a little off-putting, it seems our fascination with this hypothetical scenario, which Tarantino gladly carried out, extends well into adulthood, and fascinates us some 133 years after Hitler's very birth. Netflix's sci-fi anthology series, Love, Death, and Robots, currently has 2 seasons, totaling 34 episodes altogether.
It's just what I wanted.
These episodes each cover a different story with different but sometimes similar themes, with different characters throughout. Some episodes are animated, others live action. One episode in particular, released with Season 1 in 2019, features an animated Adolf Hitler, Hitlers to be precise. The 8-minute episode, titled Alternate Histories, follows Hitler through alternate timelines, through which the audience gets the pleasure of watching him die over and over in various creative ways.
Killed by suffocation when encased in a block of gelatin.
Not only is this the second example of a work of narrative fiction, now in TV and in film, depicting the death of Hitler differently from how it actually happened, this is now an entire episode dedicated to the premise. Even though killing people is wrong, Netflix clearly believed there was an audience more than willing to watch them kill our favorite, least favorite crazy dictator over and over and over. There is a long line of famous mustaches.
Your mustache, say the word mustache.
Tom Selleck, Sam Elliott, Burt Reynolds, Freddie Mercury. Even I have one. However, there is one iconic mustache that we all know and recognize, but for all the wrong reasons.
People used to say a lot of nasty things about me. Oh, this guy's a lunatic. Oh, look at that psycho. He's gonna get us all killed.
There has been an embargo placed on the toothbrush-style mustache that will likely last throughout all of human time. Despite the affable Charlie Chaplin sporting the stash and even delivering a harrowing monologue condemning dictators in response to Hitler,
More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness.
Hitler still corners the market for that specific style. However, one film, quietly released in 2018, put 2 of the world's famous mustaches on a path of direct conflict with each other. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot stars Sam Elliott as a retired American assassin responsible for killing the one and only Adolf Hitler. And while the movie follows this unsung American hero's coming out of retirement to hunt and kill the mythical Bigfoot for the US government, this movie serves as another clear preoccupation with Nazis, World War II, and the fantasization of Hitler's murder. For those of you who have not seen this movie, which I bet is most of you, I highly recommend you give it a watch. I know the title is a little eyebrow-raising, but I promise it's a hidden gem, especially in light of the proposed origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, which occurred 2 years after the release of this film.
Let me off a cliff. Broke my little pinky.
Sorry, come again?
While World War II and all coinciding tragedies are moments in time that deserve careful consideration, reflection, reverence, and respect, taking creative liberties from and with that time should be welcomed and celebrated. While we need to be mindful that our cathartic obsession with violently murdering Adolf Hitler, the most evil man the world has ever known, does not idolize or glorify violence,
Hitler is out of the way.
It is necessary for our society to grow and mature beyond our adolescent impulses for hate, death, and war. We have recognized the worst of ourselves as a society and a species, and we must continue to confront and condemn them. Whether it's Tarantino's hyper-violence and extreme prejudice towards them, Indiana Jones's melting all of their faces off, or Al Pacino straight up murdering them in Amazon's Hunters.
Gold ribbon, grade A Nazis.
Pop culture's preoccupations against Nazis and Nazism are sort of growing pains. We have realized the worst in humanity, seen ourselves at our lowest, our most traumatized. And in writing and screenwriting, death and the killing of a character is the clearest, most concrete narrative thematic condemnation of them, their actions, and all that they represent. And while recreating trauma is a symptom of the traumatized, exposure and reflection in controlled environments are both inherent factors to any kind of therapy.
Anybody order fried sauerkraut?
So, continuing to dwell on and kill Nazis in Call of Duty or any other fictional material not only potentially helps us to make sure we never forget, but also allows us to come face to face with and confront humanity's own demons, especially when those demons are wearing that toothbrush mustache.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl!